Welcome back to Movies TV Man and Thursday's all-new edition of the DCU Daily. A very warm welcome. Let's talk about the Superman runtime discourse. But to do that, I have to give you a little comparison. I have to take you way back to 2006 and the build-up to Superman Returns, because I've probably never been as hyped for a comic book movie or a Superman movie than I was for Superman Returns. It had been 19, 20 years since the last Superman film was on the big screen. I had seen Superman 4 in cinemas. I had seen Superman 3 in cinemas, and that was also a very an exciting time. But Superman was back. Smallville had been on the small screen since 2001. That show had reignited the flame in my heart for Superman. I was obsessed. I'd never been so obsessed about Superman in my life. It was a very exciting time to be a DC and Superman fan. And the director of X-Men 1 and 2 was making the movie. Back then, his reputation isn't what it is today. I looked up to Singer. I thought he was the bee's knees, the best director there was, and he was at the time one of the great directors of that time. He was amazing. So I was very excited, and no one could say a word against Smallville or the potential Superman Returns, the perspective movie, the upcoming movie that was coming up. A year before, I was so overhyped for Revenge of the Sith, and that went beyond my wildest dreams, and I was hoping the first Superman film for 19 years would do the same. So I was reading all the articles and all of this. Now, because my father was involved in the entertainment industry, he took us over to Hollywood when we were teenagers. We went to school over there. I made some contacts, kids my own age, and we grew up and all of that. I moved back to the UK. So when Superman Returns was being released, I was back in the UK, but those kids were adults. They would email me, they would write letters to me. I wasn't on social media back in 2006. I didn't embrace social media to 2009. Anyway, there was these rumours from my friends in the US that there was going to be this huge return to Krypton sequence. And we were all so hyped. And they had told me that half of the film's budget had gone on this sequence. It was so huge, and they were telling me that Superman's on this ship, and the ship looks similar to the ship that sent him, to Earth in Superman 1970. And I thought, wow! And they said it's going to be a really cool scene. So this made me even more hyped for this movie. I had bought the soundtrack on CD, physical media CD. I think back then they were releasing them 2 or more weeks before the movie was released. So I had the CD and I bought the novelization. So what I used to do, I was so hyped and couldn't wait. I would play the CD with the soundtrack while reading the novelization. The novelization had a lot of exciting things that the movie didn't have, which the movie absolutely should have had. Anyway, a week before, I get a fax or an email from one of my friends in Cali telling me they were cutting the Return to Krypton sequence. I was so fucking pissed off. I was so upset. I was heartbroken. All the fans who knew about this sequence were so hyped for it, and we were absolutely disappointed. It was devastating. So I was still hyped for the movie. I was still excited. It didn't take anything away, but I was devastated because I was so hyped for a Return to Krypton sequence. So I went to see the movie. I liked Superman Returns when I saw it. I enjoyed it. There was so much nostalgia for the 1978 film, and I grew up on the 1978 film, but it also tried to become its own thing. So there was nostalgia from the Donner movie, but it also tried to move away from it and create a new, exciting future. One of the best things I loved in the end of the movie is when Superman talks to Jason at the bedside and, recites what Jor-El said to him as a baby. And Brandon Routh did it in such a fucking beautiful way. And I cried and I loved that. And I thought, this is so cool. So I didn't hate that movie. Yeah, I felt a little bit underwhelmed by the lack of action. There's no question about that. And I was disappointed. by not seeing the return to Krypton sequence. Now, a lot of people tried to say it was conspiracy, that there was no return to Krypton sequence. Singer would say, well, movies, things get cut from movies. And, it was clear the studio wanted a runtime cut. Very similar to what's happening with this Superman movie we're going to see in July. By the way, we'll get there. So, what happened when the Blu-ray and DVD was released? They added, I don't think it was on the original copies of the DVD and Blu-rays. I think what happened was, I've got the box set. I've got the 50th anniversary Superman box set with all the Superman movies, documentaries, and it was all part of the build-up to Superman Returns. So we had, Look Up in the Sky, The Amazing Story of Superman. We had the whole saga of, Donna making Superman 78 being fired. Brilliant documentary. You should check it out. And they had some really exciting deleted scenes. And one of them was the return to Krypton sequence. It was real! I knew it was real! I remember a movie when that happened, when someone was screaming, it's real, and I can't remember what it is anyway. Basically, so I literally did this. I microwaved some popcorn for this return to Krypton sequence. I shut the lights. And I thought to myself, it's not going to be much. It's probably not going to even have any VFX. It's probably not, probably not going to have any sound effects or nothing. It's probably going to be very ropey and shit. So I shut the lights. I put my sound bar on. To my fucking surprise, this sequence was fucking stunning. I couldn't believe it. I always watch it before I watch Superman Returns now. Because to me, I know I bore on about this sequence a lot on my videos, but it's important. And it's important to what we're talking about with the runtime discourse for this current upcoming Superman movie. So I watch it. To my fucking surprise, it's stunning. Now, according to Singer, it wasn't even finished yet. Well, it looked fucking finished to me. It looked amazing. So he's in this ship, like the rumours said. He goes to the remains of Krypton. It looks like, the original design of the planet, but a fucked up, blown up planet that they designed, that John Barry designed for Superman 78. It's fucking stunning. But before that, we see him in this ship and he leaves. He leaves for space and he goes. So he gets to this, disembodied planet, but all of a sudden you can see chunks of kryptonite, and this starts to affect Superman. Now, don't forget, he's probably on a soundstage, Brandon, but his performance is beautiful. He's sweating, he's really dying from all this kryptonite. And it's an amazing scene, and he's crashing and he's leaving and he's trying to go back to Earth, and he does. It's a beautiful look. It is fucking amazing. And I still to this day cannot believe how anyone can justify the cutting of this sequence. Now there's some so-called experts, who talk on Twitter, who think, well, it didn't have anything to do with the narrative of the movie. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Literally, as I've said before, the synopsis says, from the depths of the ocean to the far reaches of outer space. But it had nothing to do with the narrative of the film. The whole idea that Superman's away for 5 years. Does the world still need, why the world doesn't need Superman? Of course it's got everything to do with it. They should never have cut it. You don't spend half your budget on a fucking sequence, because we all wondered where the budget went to. Nearly 300 million. But it went to one of the things it went to is a beautiful sequence, right? So this is Hollywood for you. They do this all the fucking time. In 1938, MGM, the people who ran MGM, wanted to cut Somewhere Over the Rainbow. They thought the song was too rangy, too slow, and they didn't like the idea of an MGM star singing in a barnyard. Imagine the most famous song ever in iconography, in Hollywood iconography, from probably one of the most talented people ever to step into Hollywood, right? And they wanted to cut it. Even back then, these fucking people knew nothing about movies. Leave movies to the people who fucking make them, who have hunches about things, right? So they cut the Return to Krypton sequence. Now, the runtime is still quite long for Superman Returns. It's around, some 2.5 hours or so. People think it's actually too long. I don't. I love long movies. I kind of feel a bit underwhelmed when I see a movie's 80 to 70 minutes or something. Now, it can work for a movie. Rocky IV is only 88 minutes long. And it works for Rocky 4 because there's not really much to Rocky 4, is there? There's training montages, there's an emotional music montage when Apollo dies, you know, the No Easy Way Out song, which I fucking adore, by the way, by Robert Tepper. But at the end of the day, I like long movies. I like the fact that Titanic and JFK and all these movies are long. I love when I heard we were getting a Justice League movie, 4 hours fucking long. You know, take my fucking money now. The longer they are, as long as there's actual reasons for them being long, like Avengers Endgame, that was just done as hype. That movie didn't need to be 3 fucking hours long, and we all know it. But anyway, so there's these rumours now. There's this runtime for Superman because of what happened to Superman Returns. Again, we can see what's happening here. So there's rumours that this film's only 2 hours and 2 minutes long, or 2 hours and 22 minutes long. Now, Gunn's come out and said that the runtime has not been locked yet for this movie. I don't know whether to believe him or not. And he said it's neither 2 hours and 22 minutes long, and it's neither 2 hours and 2 minutes long. Why don't you just tell us, James? You are under a month and a half. You're around a month and a half away from releasing this movie, and you're telling me you don't have an idea on the runtime of this movie. Of course you fucking do, and you could tell us. You could stop the discourse dead, but you won't, because you haven't decided yet. Because it's not just up to you, is it, James? It's up to Saffron. It's up to, you know, Mr. Hello, my name's David. Hello, my name's David. I have got no scripted entertainment experience. Zaslav. People like him are making these decisions, right? I will not be happy if this movie's cut down to 2 hours, 2 minutes or lower. Now, Gunn does seem to like short 2 hour movies. I don't think the Suicide Squad is that long. His first Guardians of the Galaxy isn't that long. Now, as long as a movie's good, right? If a movie's good and it's only meant to be a couple of hours, I'm fine with it. But I think these days people don't like short movies. They like bang for their buck. And Gunn was quoted in saying months ago that his Superman movie, was going to be around 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Now, he's saying it's neither 2 hours and 22 minutes or 1 hour and 2 minutes. No, sorry, 2 hours and 2 minutes. So I smell a fucking rat here. Remember David Ayer denying that there was going to, that there was that the Suicide Squad movie we saw in cinemas was his movie. As he said at the time, he was playing the good soldier. He lied, and then admitted that there is a director's cut, that this wasn't his movie, and he wants people to see his movie. Surprise, a fucking surprise. And, the noises that Singer was making about Superman Returns. Well, nobody's ever got a complete movie, he said, It's just a version of oneself, or whatever bullshit he was saying, right? Because the studio didn't want the return to Krypton sequence in the movie. And what kind of studio would say that? You've seen it, right? We've all seen the return to Krypton sequence, right? We understand it's stunning, and it does add to the narrative. It is fucking important to see why Superman left. Also, we don't see in the movie how Superman was duped. That was a plan from Lex Luthor to get him to leave Earth so he wouldn't be a witness at his parole fucking hearing, right? All that matters. You've got to show that. You've got to fucking show that, baby. You've got to show that plot. Because the thing is, there's lots of fucking shit you can cut from Superman Returns. We all know that. But you had a bunch of fucking talky talk, and you cut out an awesome scene where Superman takes an emotional pilgrimage back to the remains of his home planet, hoping he finds survivors. Imagine that. I mean, I don't think that was the end of that sequence. I think there was more to come. That wasn't the complete thing. And they didn't let him do it. And if you're unable to complete your vision, if you're unable to have your own runtime, to be able to have a complete kind of story in your film, that is not fair to be judged. But the studio will allow you to be destroyed on social media, even though it's not really the director's fault. We saw it in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Raimi was getting destroyed for that fucking movie from people like Collider and IGN. It wasn't even his fucking fault. Because no director decides what happens and what goes into an MCU movie. It's all Kevin Feige. Now, Gunn has gloated that with DC Studios, they're the studio and they get to decide. But you admitted your movie was going to be around, 140 minutes, which is around 2 hours and 20 minutes, right? And all of a sudden, it's not 2 hours, 2 minutes, it's not 2 hours, 22 minutes. Because at the end of the day, this is what I keep on saying to you, DC Studios, I wish it was a real studio, but it's not. It's just a logo owned by Warner Brothers. And in the end, the people who got their fingers on the chicken switch are WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery. And it's Zaslav making these final fucking decisions. It's not even Adby and DeLuca. But if this Superman movie goes wrong and people hate it, and it doesn't make any money or the money that they want it to make, Gunn is the one who will pay the consequences. And that's the problem. Who paid the consequences for Superman Returns being a flop? Bryan Singer. He had a pitch for a sequel. Superman, Man of Steel, that's what his sequel was going to be. And Brainiac was going to be there. And Brainiac was going to disguise himself as Superman's son, Jason. And Superman was going to kill Jason by accident. Imagine how epic and awesome and compellingly sad that would have been. And we were robbed from that. Just like we were robbed from Christopher McQuarrie's Man of Steel sequel. We keep on getting robbed! Robbed of other movies, robbed of sequels, robbed of longer movies, robbed of great sequences in CBMs and other movies because they are run by people who don't understand fucking movies and who don't love movies. At least the old CEOs knew their fucking place. How is Zaslav allowed to interfere? Because surely James Gunn isn't happy with 20 minutes of his fucking movie being shaved off. Now, there was another test screening. Did I mention this the other day or not? I don't know. But basically, they haven't cut a lot from that version of the test screening, but they've cut out a few gags. And it is interesting that it's not the serious stuff being cut out, but it's the jokes. And that tells you everything. We are not in the era now where people want a lot of force-fed gags in their comic book movies. This is the truth. They don't want that. They want seriousness. They want emotion. They want epic superhero action. And this is why Snyder was perfect for comic book movies. Despite all the bitching on social media, Man of Steel made just under 700 million. BVS made just under 900 million. And the Snyder Cut was a global phenomenon on streaming, on digital sales, on physical media sales. I couldn't get this. I couldn't get this for fucking months because it was sold fucking out. I was having anxiety that I couldn't own this. I needed to own this, man. I'm a geek. What can I say? I'm a fucking nutter. But yeah. So, do you understand? You can't keep on cutting people's movies to pieces. You can't keep on taking epic sequences. They took fucking half an hour out of Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, then blame the fucking director for the movie not really making sense. How could it? It made sense kind of to me. I still loved the movie when I saw the theatrical version, by the way. It didn't change how I felt, right? But when you see the ultimate edition of BVS, things become more clearer. You think, oh yeah, fucking hell, oh yeah. And it's disgusting, and they keep on doing this all the time. So I'm pretty sure that Gunn hasn't decided to have 20 fucking minutes of his movie shaved off. So I hope for his sake, and for our sake, that this movie is at least 2 hours 15 minutes at the very most. I'll accept 2 hours 10 minutes, but nothing less than that. James Gunn deserves to have his shot, to get a fair bite. But the problem is, right, with these gags, as far as these gags are concerned, stop forcing gags into comic book movies. What was quite interesting about Superman 78 and the gags in it, they're not really forced gags. It's kind of banter. That's what it is. The funny stuff in Superman 78 is just banter. I saw these young people watching it. You know, you can see people, you can watch people watch movies on YouTube, right? So there was these really young people, I think they were like uni students or something, right? And they were watching Superman 78. They were rolling on the fucking floor in every scene between Lex, Miss Tessmarker, and Otis because it's banter. It's Mickey taking, and it's fucking funny. The stuff in the Daily Planet they found hilarious because it's not just force-fed gags, it's banter, it's sarcasm, and that's the best type of humour. That's why the Tony Stark sarcasm worked in the early MCU, because it's old-fashioned humour that really works. It's not forced in there. But these days, they kind of force humour that's not fucking funny, right? And people don't even fucking want it because it's obvious. Let's stick a funny bit in there, right? Let's interrupt the seriousness. We don't want to upset anyone, right? So if we talk about someone dying, we better force a fucking joke in there so we can make people smile. Now, when that's done in a good way, it works. Old entertainment used to do it really well. We had a really, really sad, depressing moment, but you can't just force a joke in there straight away. The joke has to come at a certain stage. So, for example, if we're talking about, if there's a funeral and there's a depressing moment, you have to have the emotion. You have to have all that come out. Then maybe when you go to the next scene, you can do something, a little joke like morbid humour or something like that, but you can't just add a joke while you're talking about Rick Flagg's fucking death, you know, for an example. So, anyway, I want to see James Gunn's full vision for this movie. As I said to you, I was devastated that I didn't get to see the Return to Krypton sequence. I am still desperate to see a director's cut of Superman Returns. I understand that's difficult with Singer's situation right now, but I would love to see the ultimate cut, like we got with BVS, where we see if they actually filmed Luthor planning to distract Superman and send him to outer space so he wouldn't be a witness on his parole hearing. Do it. If there's important scenes that we needed to see, put them in, but absolutely put the Return to Krypton sequence pre-credits. And I tell you fucking something, it will be fucking amazing, because that scene should be viewed. And if there's a fuller version of that sequence, put it to fucking together, because I would love to see it. Now, there's not much DCU updates. There's lots of merch being sold. Apparently, according to the shills, it's going very, very well. Now, according to Lauren LaFranc, the showrunner of the Penguin series on HBO, they are in early development of yet another Matt Reeves spin-off. So another The Batman spin-off. Oh, great. Something else that's geo-locked to half the world, because it will be on streaming. It will be on HBO Max. So we won't be able to see it. So that doesn't do anything for me. But it's starting to is my theory about Matt Reeves and the Batman 2 or the Batman 3 becoming real. Either the Batman 2 doesn't happen and they'll just do a bunch of the Batman spin-offs on HBO Max, or we'll get the Batman 2, but we won't get the Batman 3, and everything will be spun off on HBO Max. One thing or the other is going to happen. I mean, I'm 50-50 if the Batman 2 is still going to happen. I think it has to happen. It has to happen. I think the consumer confidence around James Gunn, Saffron, and WBD will be, it's dead now, but it'll be worse. It'll flatline. If they cancel the Batman 2 and they don't have a good reason, like maybe Matt Reeves being too ill to do it, so I think it has to be done. And if it's true that he's so ill, he will bring in somebody to direct it. And my betting is it's Zack Snyder.